Welcome to the latest Evershed Sutherland Legal Insights podcast.
Hello, I'm Matthew Allen, Global Head of Financial Services at Evershed Sutherland. Welcome to the latest in a series of podcasts which will explore the current and likely future direction of private equity and venture markets across Europe. We're thrilled to have been named Pan-European Legal Advisor of the Year at the 23rd Annual Real Deals Private Equity Awards. And against that backdrop, and over the next few weeks, I'll be speaking to our private equity partners in a number of jurisdictions across Europe to get a temperature check on current deal activity, industry trends and market outlook. Today, we'll be looking at the market in Italy, and to help us do this, I'm delighted to be joined by my Milan-based colleagues, Davide, Alessandro and Lorenzo. Davide, I'm going to hand it over to you to take us through it.
Yeah, and thanks, Matthew. And first of all, good morning, Evershed Sutherland. First of all, a very short introduction. I'm Davide Proverbio. I'm the co-head of the corporate practice here in Italy. Then, please, the other two partners, a short introduction.
Yes, I'm Alessandro Vischi. Thank you, Davide. I'm a corporate partner of the Milan office with more than 20 years experience. I focus my practice on national and cross-border PE as well as M&A and VC deals.
I'm Lorenzo Fratantoni. I'm partner here in the Milan office, and I mainly focus on venture capital.
Okay, so let's start with you, Alessandro. And what's your view on the current state of play of private equity in our jurisdiction, Italy?
Okay, thanks for the question, Davide. Private equity is in a period of adjustment, especially considering economic and geopolitical uncertainty. The deal count declined in 2023, and private equity buyers had to increase equity contribution in order to complete transaction. Despite 2023, the sector started 2024 with an increase of deals with respect to recent previous years. The number of deals we have been advising so far this year surely confirms this trend. Another trend has been noted. PE houses are now focusing on finding new realities to enrich their portfolios, rather than on strengthening their single portfolio companies by external lines. Northern regions continue to have a leading role, with Lombardy and Veneto at the top, although Tuscan figures stand out. Finally, I would say that the focus, as we all know in Italy, is in the mid-market area, which offers more opportunities for consolidation and value increase on the investments and guarantees various exit solutions.
Thanks, Alessandro. And turning to you, Lorenzo, what is the state of play in venture capital?
Say 2024 started in a very brilliant way. The fourth quarter, in particular, was a record one. We counted about 108 rounds compared in the fourth quarter of 2024, compared to the 88 in the last quarter of 2023. And also the value of the aggregate investment significantly increased in the fourth quarter. It was approximately 440 million in the fourth quarter compared to the 390 million in the last quarter of 2023, which let's say it is a record here in Italy. And the trend we do not have the data for the second quarter, but let's say that the rumors seems to confirm such great moment, and which is let's say a really great performance, especially compared with the trend in Europe, which is not so brilliant early in 2024 as to the number of deals and the amount invested in the investment rounds. As to the investors, let's say it is always the same story here in Italy. So the vast majority of investors are foreign investors. And as to the Italian players, I would say that which is maybe a weakness, a typical weakness of the venture capital here in Italy. There is a sort of over-reliance on state-controlled VC funds, Cassa Depositi e Prestiti, the sovereign funds, which is a substantially in a lot of, I would say, the vast majority of the deals. They are always present. It is a great support, but let's say it should be time to work alone sometimes.
Independently.
Yeah,
okay.
Correct.
Okay, and going back to private equity, Alessandro, what are the particular trends, if any, and the hot sectors or type of assets that investors would typically look at?
Yeah, well, I would say that the most recent trend and note of Italian PE is that there is an increasing presence of the so-called buy and build and add-on approach, with the aim of starting with an initial acquisition of aggregating several companies that are complementary to each other in order to create group synergies, greater possibility for international development. This, I would say, is a recent trend. This approach applies mainly to small and mid-market funds, but it is also very common for those working on larger buyouts. In terms of sectors, industrial products are the most rated. Retail market is still in expansion. ICT, I would say, and clean tech, as well as energy, agri-food are also at the top of the list.
Okay, and if I may add, because while you were talking, an issue came to my mind in respect of the aggregation platforms that you were mentioning.
Yep.
What I notice is that given the very fragmented type of markets here in Italy and consequent tiny size of potential targets, this aggregation platform mood is even pushed to the extreme where the private equity houses would very often start the aggregation with their first investment by way of buying multiple companies operating in the same space, so to create immediately the platform without waiting for subsequent bolt-ons. And this basically shorten the investment period, of course, and allows them to deploy capital at the same time for a multiple number of targets, whereas by buying in subsequent rounds, this would be a bit difficult because the first investment could be too small. Whereas if they buy at the same time different companies, the deployment of capital is in line with the investment criteria. Is this something that you also have noticed?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is a type of investment that is increasing in Italy, and absolutely, I confirm that we have done deals where, you know, at the very beginning, the company already had not only one target, but 2 or 3 targets, and they put it together as a first deal. So absolutely.
And you also acted on a bolt-on of a platform that was for the sellers, where the platform was already created from the start, right?
Absolutely.
You have just closed a deal in this.
Absolutely.
In this particular way.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And Lorenzo, going back to venture capital, what are the specific trends at local level, and if there are any hot sectors or assets in venture capital also?
Let me start from maybe the main characteristic as to local trends, which is the size of the deal. Because here in Italy, we have, again, also in 2024, a lot of small deals. not so many large deals, but there are a lot of, let's say, pre-seed and seed rounds, which in 2024, I think, at least in the first quarter, substantially represented nearly the 70% of the total rounds, mainly driven by investment made by startups accelerators and again, the state-controlled VC funds. And the number of, let's say, big deal increased in 2024, but compared with the seed and pre-seed rounds, it seems to be, let's say, a little bit too small. We had in the fourth quarter of 2024, we had 13 rounds, Series A rounds, for an aggregate value of about 70 million, which is in line with the trend of 2023. We had just two Series B rounds for an amount in aggregate of about 30 million, and a similar few numbers of Series C rounds, but obviously, which substantially amounts for more than half, 57% of the overall funding in the first quarter. As to the industry sectors, let's say we are substantially in line with the other countries in Europe. With respect to 2024, we had, let's say, it was fairly distributed among several sectors. The main ones was for number of rounds, startup or scale up running in smart city business, which was in the first quarter about 14 or 15 rounds of investment. Software has attracted a substantially same number of rounds in the first quarter, 13, especially the AI company, software, also generative AI, and obviously the usual ones, life science, agritech, with again about 14 rounds in the first quarter. Again, software in terms of amount of money invested, maybe software is especially B2B is the most significant. Just let me say that in any case, in the second quarter of 2024, we closed maybe two of the most significant deals in Italy. The first one was iGenius with the pre-money valuation of 1 billion. It was a unicorn. And the second one is a Series C of the Orbit with a pre-money valuation of about 500 million.
Thanks, Ale. Thanks. And very last question for you, Alessandro. What's your view for the next 12 months in a nutshell?
Absolutely. Well, I'm always positive, but I have to confirm this also on this podcast. So the outlook for the second semester of 2024 and beginning of 2025 is surely positive. There are good signals that, private equity investments will rise in the next 12 months. At the investor level, the contribution of private individuals will grow, as well as club deal transaction. Also driving the increase in private equity investments is the hunger of returns, of course, as this asset class offers higher returns than stocks and bonds. By being able to intercept high growth companies, private equity, I think, will continue to offer interesting results in the coming months. Thank you, Davide.
Say, we are done, and I don't know if you, Matthew, have any additional question for us. Otherwise,
no, thank you, guys. It was incredibly thorough and helpful. Davide, Alessandro, Lorenzo, thank you very much indeed for joining us today and for your incredibly helpful insights. A lot going on in the Italian market. Thanks, of course, to you, the listeners, for joining us as always. If you'd like to know more about our European private equity team or trends and opportunities in private markets in Italy in the coming period, please don't hesitate to contact our team in Milan, myself, or your usual Evershed Sutherland contact. Please look out for the next podcast in the series, which will appear on all our usual social media channels in the very near future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Evershed Sutherland Legal Insights podcast.